Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shobhita. It's again such a pleasure to stand in front of you to speak about some of the amazing stories of India's real estate companies through our list, what is the 2024 Grohe Hurun India 100. Setting the context for today, this is a list of top 100 real estate companies sorted by valuations. Threshold to enter the list is about rupees 1,200 crores, which means the 100th company would be valued at about 1,200 crores. The 2024 Grohe Hurun India 100 has entrants from residential sectors, commercial, hospitality, and rest from retail, co-working spaces, and so on. The list is broadly 52 unlisted and 48 listed companies. And then also in the press release, we've mentioned the top 10 wealthiest individuals in the based on their ownership in the real estate companies as well, called the real estate rich list. What we've understood after doing the year-long research and publishing this report is that India's real estate sector was on steroids last year. Just to give you some numbers based on the current this year's list, the cumulative value the companies featured in 2024 Grohe Hurun Real Estate 100 has gone up by 70% compared to last year. There are $36 billion real estate companies. Just to give you some idea, when we started the real estate rich list in 2018, the number of billion-dollar real estate companies that we could find was about 7 to 8, and of course some companies that we have missed. If you add the whole thing together, would reach about 10 to 12 billion-dollar real estate companies. Now this year we have about 36 billion-dollar real estate companies. I would also like to take this opportunity to point out a small correction in the press release that's been handed over to you. In that we've written that India has beaten China in terms of number of billion-dollar real estate companies. That's a slight oversight. What we intended to say was that India has overtaken China in terms of number of listed, when you compare the number of listed real estate companies in mainland China. So mainland China has about 30 billion-dollar listed real estate companies. India overall has about 36 billion-dollar real estate companies. But then the key point to tell you here is that whenever we've been compiling the list, the real estate list over the last few years, two countries that we compared was India and China, and we were hoping or trying to look for a year when we would grow faster than that of China. And this year has been spectacular when you do that particular comparison. The number that I told you earlier, there are about $30 billion listed real estate companies in mainland China. That number was about 100 about 2-3 years back. So there's a massive degrowth in the real estate economy in a country like China. And we also published a list called the China 500. Even in that list, the threshold to enter the list is about 3 billion US. That number has gone down from a real estate perspective from 50 about 3-4 years back to now 10, which is the current number. So if you compare India and China, India has an overall growth in terms of the valuation for real estate companies that feature in a list compared to a degrowth in the case of China. The threshold to enter the list has gone up by 30%. So if you were to do the same list last year and compared to this year, the threshold to enter the list has gone up by 30%. Next is we have also had 5 IPOs last year from the real estate sector in the 2024 Grohe Hurun India 100. And the IPOs ka subscription issues range from 2x to 108x. So it's been great year from an IPO perspective as well. Average value, that's interesting. The average value of companies featured in 2024 Grohe Hurun India 100, that's gone up from rupees 8,000 crores last year to about 14,000 crores this year. So there's an increase in average value, increase in cumulative value, number of billion-dollar real estate companies, threshold, and the IPO has been fantastic. And this is interesting, 86% of the list has seen a growth in their value. So overall, if you look at all these parameters put together, that's why I started my presentation saying that India's real estate sector has been on steroids last year. And these are the top 10 companies. So we've got DLF, Lodha, Taj, IHCL Taj, Godrej, Oberoi, Prestige, Adani Realty. You've got the top 10 here. You can see it here. But one interesting point that I want to share here, which is a representation of what the future holds for India's real estate sector is. One is, of course, the stronger, bigger brands like DLF, Lodha. They will all continue to be stronger because of the brand that they've been building over the years. You will also see traditional family businesses are who's got a very strong brand value, like in the case of Godrej, who's will continue to be building really strong real estate businesses. And we did a calculation earlier. Almost 12 to 13 companies featured in the 2024 Grohe Hurun Real Estate 100. They used to be doing some other business earlier, and they built a strong brand in their respective businesses, and they ventured in real estate sector. Then you could also see brands that are led by professionals. You know, if you look at Adani Realty, is led by a non-family member, or if you look at companies like that, that is also quite interesting. So overall, if you were to what you can infer from this top 10 list is you'd see stronger, bigger brands getting stronger. You'll see a lot more stronger brand name. We've been doing other family businesses. They possibly getting into launching their real estate ventures, and also a lot more professionals taking a front seat in terms of building these respective real estate companies. And this is a rich list, the list of top 10 wealthiest real estate entrepreneurs in the country. The list hasn't changed much compared to last year. Rajiv Singh is number one, followed by Mangal Prabhat Lodha, then the rest of the names that you can see here. The next is the top 5 cities from which these entrepreneurs or these companies hail from. This is very much in line with the Hurun's India rich list. The number one, the real estate capital of India, continues to be Mumbai with about 33 entrants in the list, followed by Bangalore, which is about 15 entrants. Then third, followed by New Delhi and Gurugram, if you combine, that's about 14 and 10 respectively. So these are the top 5 cities in the 2024 Grohe India Real Estate 100. And list by the state, you can see that at least 10 states that you can see in this. And that's quite exciting. And we expect to see a lot more companies from tier 2, tier 3 cities. I was having an interesting conversation with Priya of Grohe, and she'd possibly speak about the growth of real estate economy in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. This is the companies with the highest growth rate. You've got, from a percentage standpoint, is Unitech, Tata Realty, Puravankara, and so on. But what is more interesting is the companies that has had highest growth rate in terms of the absolute value change. And here, if you look at it, all the companies that have had the highest value chain are from the top 10, with DLF, Lodha, Prestige, Godrej, Oberoi. And this trend has been exceptionally visible over the last 2-3 years, mainly driven by increased savings during lockdown, minimum income disruption in mid and high income brackets, and a robust economic growth forecast. And as per a Knight Frank report that was launched, I think last week, which mentioned the residential real estate market sustained its momentum as it stepped into 2024 with the sales scaling up 11-year high. So that has been the robustness in terms of the sales potential or the growth of the real estate economy. And the biggest benefactors are, of course, the established names that you can see here. We also have a list of the youngest and the oldest companies in the list. The youngest company in the list is Max Exchange and SmartWorks. And the oldest companies in the list includes Peninsula Land to Phoenix to Taj Group and Oberoi Group and so on. And we also did an analysis of Hurun Multiverse, which is basically, if you've watched the Marvel Avengers movies, various superheroes come from different universes and come together. So from that context, so around 41 of the 2024 Grohe Hurun India Real Estate 100 featured in the India Rich list, about 16 in the India's most valuable companies or India 500. 5 of the founders are featured in the self-paid entrepreneurs, the millionaire, which means they founded their business of the year 2000, and 14 are on the global rich list, which is a list of billionaires from India. To conclude, I think RERA has been a game changer. I think we published the first real estate rich list in the year 2018. So that was 2017, I believe, was when the RERA came into full effect. If you look at the numbers or the changes since 2018 to now, it's been nothing short of spectacular. So as I mentioned earlier, in 2018, there were about 10 to 12 billion dollar real estate companies, and now there are 36. The threshold to enter the Grohe Hurun India real estate rich list in 2018 was about 5,900 crores. Fast forward now, it's about 13,970 crores to enter the top 10 rich list. So that number has gone up by almost 2.5 times. So you could really see the change that the sector has gone through post implementation of RERA. I'd also predict a lot more wealth creation. Now, if you look at the list, 52% of the list is unlisted and 48% is listed. And real estate, just by looking at this year's data, the companies have had a great run in terms of listing. So some of these good companies, if they come back to public, I really believe that there'll be a lot more wealth creation from a real estate sector standpoint. And professionals and next gen are going to be more active. I did mention briefly that some of the companies are run by professionals and next gen. So we have some numbers here. 18 companies in the top 100 are run by professionals, about 20 are run by next gen, and 13 companies are established brand names who've had other businesses and who've got into real estate. So you would see a lot more of this combination playing out in the next few years. More national brands from the country. So in 2018 list, one of the topics that we discussed in the panel was that why are real estate companies very local and why are they not going national? And at that time, the number of companies in the list which is truly national brands are about 4 to 5. Now, almost 60% of the list are national brands. That means they've established in their home territory, but they've expanded beyond their state to other states. So that's actually quite interesting. And on that note, I truly believe that if there's any country that can produce now global level real estate brand, it's currently in the 2024 Grohe Hurun India Real Estate 100, about 6 global brands, which means 6 companies who've got operations outside of India. And considering the fact that the Indian diaspora is possibly the biggest in the world, you'd see a lot more of acceptability for Indian brands on a global scale if they have to venture out. Tier 2 cities, I also see a lot of growth in tier 2 cities. Almost 30% of the entrants are the tier 2 cities. Just a couple of hours back, I was having a debate with my colleagues on what really constitutes the tier 2 cities. And so a city like Ahmedabad, would you consider a tier 1 or a tier 2 cities? And in this 30%, we haven't included Ahmedabad as a tier 2 cities. So 30% of the list in that context are from tier 2 cities. And you would see a lot more tier 2 cities becoming tier 1 cities, and real estate driven by infrastructure spending is going to play a huge role there as well. So to conclude, this new RERA regulated real estate sector in India will be one of the most value creating sector in the country. And if anything to go by, the trends mentioned in the 2024 Grohe Hurun India Real Estate 100 clearly indicates that Indian real estate economy has a lot more stories to tell in the coming years. So thank you very much. I would like to mention my special thanks to Grohe here. This is the 7th year of partnership. We do a lot of work on research on looking at these numbers, but it's always nice to have a third-party perspective from Grohe in terms of what is happening on the ground, and we take their feedback seriously when we compile our research as well. And it's been a fantastic partnership, and from our perspective, every list is like photograph being taken. You take the first photo in the first year of the list, then you take a photo every year. Then it's 7 years, and you look back through all these photos and you can clearly see how the country has grown through the eyes of these companies. So fantastic, and thank you very much for the partnership, and thank you all for coming here. And I do really hope that some of these stories and numbers that I've shared here do make some sense to you, and it does give some perspective. It did give some perspective on the story of India's real estate economy. Thank you very much for joining, and look forward to catching up with you later. Thank you.